So the big story of the week is Hurricane Irma and the threat it poses to Americans. But underneath the surface, the real story, from my perspective, is the fear-mongering media. Look at the massive frenzy they caused. Take a look. Everyone's watching the news, reading the paper. The apocalyptic storm of the century, this hurricane has been dubbed. And the media loves it. People are feeding into it. And the ratings are through the roof. And that's the real story here. Because the threat's overblown. People are exaggerating it. They're overreacting. People are buying out all the water, the gas. I'm in Sarasota County, Florida, waiting an hour at the gas station if I can even find one that has gas. The ATM's empty. Even a week in advance, people are just taking it to extreme, the precaution. People are going to the extreme with safety. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, safety comes first. Better safe than sorry, the motto goes. And you're right. Better safe than sorry, but the odds of the hurricane hitting you directly from where it's at right now are slim. I think it's, give or take, I think it's beyond Haiti right now at this point in time. But to hit your county exactly, the factors going into that are many. One, you got to maintain speed. You got to maintain strength. And you need to maintain direction. So if it were to meet all those criteria and hit your county directly, even then, you act like we live in fucking tents or a hut with a rooftop made of leaves strung together. For the most part, we have sturdy housing. So what's the real threat? It's not bodily injury or death even. It's not that at all. Look at Hurricane Charlie. I believe it was 31 deaths in Florida in 2004. And like only 11 of those 31 deaths were directly related to Hurricane Charlie. So it's not death. Because if you look at 31 deaths in Hurricane Charlie, that hurricane was dubbed catastrophic as well. And you look at that in proportion to the population of Florida, it's minuscule. So what's the real threat? Is it death or injury? No, it's realistically, it's property damage. Florida had about, I think, $15 billion worth of property damage and give or take 300,000 in agricultural damage. So property damage is a threat. It's realistic. Is it devastating? Is it apocalyptic? Is it life-threatening? Your livelihood, maybe, The power going out for a week could become problematic. Getting water the first week is problematic. It's realistic. But, even Hurricane Charlie, just a select few had their power out for more than a week. So those are not life-threatening. Those can be dealt with. The only people that are in harm's way physically are people that live in RVs, mobile homes, homeless, people that live in a cardboard box. So what's the real story here? What's going on with the news? Hyping it up. And people feeding right into it. I think it's human nature. People have a tendency to excessively worry and exaggerate things, to make a big deal about things. And that's what people do. They have a frame of worst case scenario when they're in the spotlight. Catastrophic once-in-a-lifetime event. And this is what they're doing. It's the stage of human nature. It's human error. It's erroneous thinking. And people are feeding into it, and the media knows this, and they love it because the ratings are through the roof. People are watching it, turning on the radio, putting their flashy headlines, apocalyptic storm, on top of the paper every morning this week. And it's like a stripper. A new stripper hitting the club. Florida's the club. The stripper's Irma, and the media's milking Irma for all it's worth. Milking the novelty out of it. Because the threat is not real. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's like stupid, but when push comes to shove, if you're not in a designated surge zone, what do they call it, a designated storm surge zone? You're fine, You're worrying about nothing. But when it comes down to it, those few hours, you should probably get out of harm's way if you're in a designated zone. So the media is not to blame for all this Florida frenzy over this hurricane. They're only partially to blame. Because the panic amongst the herd is coming from many places. It's multifactorial. And when Katrina hit, the government officials, George Bush and those beneath them signed off on it. They didn't evacuate all the areas they were supposed to. They were supposed to designate other counties as storm surge areas, and they did not. And they pretty much dropped the ball, and people died from drowning and whatnot. So this is why there's a heightened sense of safety by government officials telling you to evacuate in advance, prematurely, when it's not necessary.